Since the creation of Minecraft, the game's community has come up with hundreds of thousands of mods. In this video, I'm going to try to survive 25 days in Minecraft Hardcore, but each day I'll have to add a new mod. The first mod I added is called Biomes of Plenty, which adds tons of new biomes. Okay, at the start, as you can see, I spawned in a desert, where there was literally a pyramid right next to me. First, of course, I gathered wood and crafted the basic tools. Next, I visited the pyramid, where I mainly found an enchanted book with flame, 4 golden apples and 1 diamond. I also found a coal vein at the bottom, which I mined. After coming back up, I managed to find a desert village, where I took a bed and hay bales, and I killed the golem, who dropped as much as 4 iron ingots for me. A bit later, near the desert, I found 2 new biomes that looked quite beautiful. The second one, which represents the savannah, was especially stunning. Next, I found a cave that I decided to go down into, but when I saw the number of monsters at the bottom, I immediately decided to go back up, where night had already fallen, so I just decided to sleep until morning. Another mod added a biome compass to the game, which showed the coordinates of a given biome. The next day, I figured it would be worth looking for a place to build a house. On the way, I managed to find some more beautiful biomes and a cave, which I went down into. At the bottom, of course, I made a shield and mined a dozen or so iron ores, thanks to which I crafted myself an iron chestplate and pants. In the cave, I came across an abandoned mine shaft, where I found a cave spider spawner and a diamond that was right next to it. In the cave, I also decided to set up a bed and go to sleep. On the third day, I installed a mod that, among other things, allowed me to destroy entire trees and ores in one go. After a good night's sleep in the cave, I found a few more diamonds before heading back up. On the surface, I used the mod I had just installed to farm some wood. When night was falling, I managed to make it to the surface. A ruined portal with a chest, in which I mainly found an enchanted golden helmet with respiration 3, which allowed me to stay underwater longer. Before going to sleep, I crafted myself iron boots and a helmet to complete my armor set. On the 4th day, I added a mod that allowed me to craft backpacks. So I started hunting sheep and cows, because leather and wool were exactly what I needed to make a backpack. First, I made a small one, then gradually upgraded it to the largest size for tons of storage. At the end of the day, I found a nice spot for my house. Before sleep, I also planted some wheat. The Quark mod added all sorts of different chests to the game, each with its own unique properties. Mainly they just had more slots for items. That day, I started building my house. I built the floor from wood, which meant I spent half the day gathering it. In the evening, as you can see, unfortunately, my house wasn't even halfway built yet. The next mod is called Just Enough Items, and thanks to it, on the right side, when I clicked on a given item, its crafting recipe would be displayed, which definitely made the gameplay easier for me. I also spent this entire day building, and by the end of the day, the house was starting to take shape, but there was still a lot of work left to do. The 7th mod added several dozen new animals to our game. Basically, for about half of this day, I was just gathering wood so I could finally finish this stupid house. And honestly, I didn't anticipate that to build it I would have to cut down practically the entire forest around my base. The 8th mod was really awesome because it added a bunch of weird things, but the most interesting of them was a flying broom. On the 8th day, I'll assume that no one really expected this, but I was building the house again. But this time, fortunately, it was almost finished. The next mod was really powerful because it added a huge number of new armors and tools. Among other things, you can craft emerald, obsidian, or nether star armor. Yes, you heard that right, nether star armor. On the 9th day, I decided to go into a cave to look for diamonds. When I got back to the surface, I crafted myself a diamond chestplate and pants. I also made an iron chest, which was definitely more spacious than a regular one. Thanks to this mod, the game literally allowed me to create a glider. And of course, that very day, I immediately decided to craft it. Let me tell you, as far as I'm concerned, it really works great. Next, I planned to make a flying broom, but unfortunately, I didn't have the necessary items for crafting, so I set out and immediately started gathering them. I made a diamond pickaxe so that I could later mine obsidian and build a portal next to my house. At one point, I realized that I could actually craft a biome compass, which I had added on the 2nd day of my adventure, so I immediately set out to look for the items. Along the way, I also managed to gather some melons. The 11th mod simply added more types of fences and gates to the game, which allowed me to create nice enclosures. On the 11th day, I went to the Nether to look for a ghast because I needed its tear to build a broom. Along the way, I came across a few new biomes, which honestly impressed me. At one point I even found a bastion, but I decided not to trade with the piglins and just collect the chests. I finally managed to find a ghast, but unfortunately it didn't drop anything for me. Luckily on my way back I encountered another one, and this time it dropped a ghast tear. Another mod was responsible for generating new ores in the Nether. On the 12th day, I made stone shears. Yes, you heard that right, stone ones to destroy leaves and prepare a place for a cow pen. I built it out of new fences, which I thought looked nice. You can actually write in the comments if you like them too. That same day, I also went to a cave. Interestingly, on the way, I encountered sharks in the water. Unfortunately, I only found out about them when one of them attacked me. After dealing with them, I got a shark tooth. In the mine, I managed to collect quite a few diamonds, mainly thanks to fortune kill-offs and a bit of luck, really. When I got back to my area, I finished crafting my diamond armor, and then I went to sleep. The way the 13th mod works is very simple. It allows me to hit animals or monsters through grass. Honestly, I'm surprised that something like this isn't already in Minecraft. On the 13th day, I brought 2 cows into my pen, which meant I could start breeding them. Then I crafted a biome compass, which showed me the coordinates of specific biomes. I also made an anvil and a golden chest, which had a lot of storage space. At sunset, I figured it was worth lighting up the area around my house, because I needed to kill a phantom, which spawns, among other reasons, when a player hasn't slept for several days in a row. At night, I collected sand so I could smelt it into glass and then install it in my house. The next mod was very interesting because it allowed me, among other things, to see how much hunger a particular food would restore, and thanks to it, I could also see the saturation effect provided by specific foods. On the 14th day, I decided it was worth building a chimney on my roof and finally beautifying my house, which ended up looking like this. After that, I bred the cows again, and then waited for a phantom to appear. Eventually, I managed to spot one, and after killing it, I finally had it. All the items needed to craft the flying broom. This time, I decided to add dungeons to Minecraft, meaning structures with some bosses and loot in chests. That day, I decided to test the new item by flying around the world and searching for new biomes. I managed to find a lava biome with a huge volcano, which looked truly epic. I also came across a rainbow forest, where I found beautiful dark pink water and a ruined portal with a chest. Next, honestly with some hesitation because I was worried about my FPS, I decided to add a mod that enabled physics in Minecraft. When the next day began, I decided to head straight to the Nether to finally beat Minecraft. In the fortress, I encountered strange monsters holding enchanted netherite swords and axes, so I had to be very careful with them. Fortunately, I finally managed to kill them, and surprisingly, one of the monsters dropped its sword and axe, which were really powerful. Next, I killed some blazes and set out to look for a bastion. This time I decided it was worth installing a mod that simply adds a minimap to our Minecraft. The next day, I managed to find a bastion. At first, I collected the chests, in which I found, among other things, 2 enchanted diamond pickaxes, one with mending and the other with silk touch, some ancient debris and individual pieces of diamond armor. I also came across an emerald ore in the bastion, and only after I destroyed it did I realize how it actually works. Physic mod. Next I mined blocks from the bottom and started trading with the piglins. Unfortunately, they practically didn't want to drop anything. Pearls, so I got a bit annoyed and left the Nether early with only 8 pearls. The 18th modification is probably the most popular and simplest mod in the world. Of course, I'm talking about Optifine. On the 18th day, I crafted a clock, which I needed to create the time wand. Then I went to mine 4 obsidian blocks for enchanting. Once I had it, I enchanted my bow, all my armor, and finally used the anvil to apply the flame book. Next, I set out to search for the stronghold. On the way, I also found a giraffe, which, well, it looked really adorable. When I was close to the stronghold, I used the time wand, which immediately changed the time of day. The next mod was called Waystones, and it allowed me to create portals between 2 different places. The next day, I dug down to the stronghold. While exploring it, I found a chest with 1 pearl inside. I knew it still wouldn't be enough, so when I found the portal room, I placed as many ender eyes as I had, and set out to look for endermen. I finally found one, and luckily my sword had looting, so I got 2 pearls at once. The 20th mod I installed is already quite old, and it's the well-known Lucky Blocks. On the 20th day, I entered the end. Of course, as usual, I destroyed the crystals and started fighting the dragon. When I defeated it, I headed to the end city for the elytra. On the way, I happened to find my first lucky block, which spawned some dogs. After a while, I also found an end city, where I managed to get some really awesome items. Unfortunately, to my bad luck, the ship with the elytra didn't spawn. And honestly, I just didn't feel like looking for another end city, so I simply went back to the overworld. The next mod was just a regular boost. For FPS, because at the end I planned to install something really heavy, and I needed this mod for that. The next day, I mined 4 obsidian for a waystone and slowly started crafting lucky blocks. Unfortunately, I had very little gold, so I went to the mine. When I got back, it was already night, so I went to sleep. The principle of operation of the 22nd mod. The mod was very simple. It simply gave me the ability to see the amount of health of monsters as well as animals. On the 22nd day, I made purple dye, which I also needed to craft, the waystone. But besides the dye, I still needed a few emeralds, so I went to the Nether, where I found them without any problem. After everything, I came back and crafted a warpstone, which I then used to create a waystone. Next, I went about 1000 blocks away from my base to place it there, in order to create a relatively safe spot for opening lucky blocks. When I came back, I realized that I needed to craft another warp stone so I could teleport with it. 23. The mod was being installed into the game. A ton of new doors. I decided to make glass doors, which in my opinion looked really nice against the backdrop of my house. Next, I crafted more lucky blocks and decided to mine 5 pieces of obsidian to make an obsidian helmet. Of course, I enchanted it and teleported to the area where I planned to open the lucky blocks. From the first one, a killer bunny appeared, whose job was to kill me in one hit if I attacked it. Fortunately, I had a mod installed that showed information about each mob, because otherwise this episode would have ended a bit early. After opening all the lucky blocks, I did a quick analysis and it turned out that about 3/5 of them tried to kill me. 1/5 was just total junk, and the rest were just some unique items. The last mod was really powerful. It added new types of TNT. On day 24, I plan to craft the strongest TNT in this mod. You crafted it by putting 8 obsidian, 8 diamonds, and a dragon egg from a chest. Surprisingly, it turned out that this crafting recipe actually made 2 ultimate TNT. In the afternoon, I decided to upgrade my enchantment setup to a higher level, so I went out to look for sugarcane and cows. When I got back, I crafted as many bookshelves as I could. Then I tried to enchant my chestplate with some cool enchantments, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. The last mod was being installed into the game. New types of bows. At the beginning of day 25, I crafted an emerald bow and a golden one, which immediately came with the infinity enchantment. Thanks to that, I could just shoot endlessly without losing any arrows. Before I set out to look for dungeons, I enchanted both bows with power 2. I finally managed to find one of the dungeons, which was a castle, and the king was its boss. So I decided to immediately build up to the top and place 2 ultimate TNTs and set them off. Of course, I immediately used 2 power shots, which as you can see clearly weren't enough. After a really long lag, the castle was pretty much destroyed, but surprisingly the boss was still alive. I approached him and, let's say, started fighting him, mostly just shooting from a distance. When I defeated him, I received a special hoe from him. Looting game 5.